Good afternoon, and welcome to the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts Leader Over Lunch Series. I'm Dr. Keith Motley, Chancellor Emeritus at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and a professor there, but so honored today to be consultant, president, and CEO of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. I'm grateful to the chair of the board, Joseph Feaster, and his colleagues for trusting me to help them as we navigate through the next 100 years of the Urban League. Looking forward to changing lives and also empowering communities together. Special thanks before we get started to our Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts staff members, William Watkins, Otanel Uter, and also Natalie Haywood. Thank you for your support on this event. I want to thank all of you for tuning in today to our Leaders Over Lunch series. Leaders Over Lunch is an opportunity for the audience to interact with game-changing leaders in education, business, government, community development, and religion. The goal is to have a candid conversation about our strengths, our weaknesses, our threats, and our opportunities, of which are all important to us as a community. Now, today's topic is unemployment benefits, learning how to apply, and the special provisions in the new age of COVID-19 unemployment facts. Now, just some background to why we felt it was important to do this today. You have economists like Robert Murphy at Boston College stating that the numbers of unemployed are equivalent to the Great Depression. 36 million people across this country are unemployed since March, and that's growing every day. Total unemployed in Massachusetts is over a million, and over a million people have filed for unemployment. And since March 15th, there are an incredible amount of claims. But I'm not going to go into all of that because we have some incredible ground to break. But I do want to talk about some facts around some of the communities that are in Boston and are near and dear to us. Rates of unemployment in Roxbury, 27%, Dorchester, 30%, Mattapan, 26%. And according to the Pioneer Institute report, the industries hardest hit are hospitality, retail trade, healthcare, and social assistance, and construction. And so we at the Urban League decided that we wanted to bring one of our incredible leaders to you and introduce to some of you, but talk in a candid way for most of you with our guest today, who's our secretary, Rosalin Acosta of the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. They say that average leaders want to hide and be left alone. They say that good leaders want to learn and grow, and great leaders want to have deep level conversations. And so we're going to have a deep level conversation with an incredible individual today. Mother of 5 children, born in Cuba, first Latina to serve as Labor and Workforce Secretary, played hockey as a fellow student athlete at Wesleyan University in Connecticut. She's one of the most influential people and one of the most influential people named by the Women of Harvard Club. She's also awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Association of Latino Professionals for America. So I want you to sit back. You can participate in this conversation using the question and answer feature to ask questions. But we also brought along with us someone who's also a genius today to be with us. Hal Bent is with us. He's the customer service manager and one of the top writers around, and he's here to answer any of those questions that the secretary and I sort of may want to get detailed about. And he'll be doing that both online, and he'll be doing that with us as we go through this conversation. Now, this is an hour-long conversation. I know you're saying, Keith, well, get to it. But this is an opportunity for you to sit back, enjoy your lunch. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome my friend and my colleague, Secretary Rosalin Acosta. So, Secretary Acosta, it's so great to see you. Before we begin, I just want to ask you how you and your family are doing during these unprecedented times.
Well, first of all, hello, Dr. Motley, and hello, Urban League family, and William. Thank you for inviting me here today. It's always my pleasure to be with you. I'm a huge fan of everything the Urban League does. How are we doing? I'm doing fine, thank you. My family is healthy, and that's the the baseline for everything right now is how our families are doing, and you can do 7 days a week, 13-hour, 15-hour days. It doesn't matter as long as we're healthy. That's all that really matters. So, thank you for asking. We're doing well, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you so much. So, given the unprecedented turn that we've all had to experience lately, where do you see workforce and job development heading in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
Yes, and it's a great question. We are obviously in a very unprecedented time. Most recessions, when you have a recession, there's a gradual cadence to it. This has not been gradual. Overnight, I mean, we had some of the best unemployment numbers. When you look at averages, and I'm always very skeptical at looking at averages, but the average unemployment rate in February was 2.8%. Obviously, that wasn't true in many of our neighborhoods, right? Where the average unemployment rate was much higher. And I always talk about the disparity in those numbers. But right now, we know that those unemployment rates are much, much higher. And we'll be taking a glimpse at those unemployment rates this Friday is when the Massachusetts unemployment rate comes out. As all of you know, or may have heard, the national unemployment rate right now is 14.7%. So that's quite a difference from where nationally we were at about 3.5%, right? So that's a huge increase. Where we've seen the predominant amount of job loss, as you said, Dr. Motley, is in our low income jobs, right? So retail, food and accommodation, hospitality, those have all really been hit hard, as well as construction. What I'm keeping my eye on, though, is some of the other jobs to see how deep this recession might be. Some of the jobs in finance and insurance, professional services. When we start seeing an uptick in those, and we are seeing that, then you start seeing more of a base level of unemployment that may be harder to get out of, because those may be permanent losses. And you mentioned that we have about 1,100,000 claims that we've had, new claims since March 15th, in both our traditional unemployment and our pandemic unemployment assistance, which I'm happy to describe what that is. So between those two programs, we've had over 1 million claims. Not all of those jobs are going to come back. So we're going to have to transform and pivot from obviously paying these claims and accepting these claims to reemployment, right? So we're going to have to go from thinking about unemployment to now really focusing on reemployment, and what are the tools that we're all going to need collectively to get people back to work, potentially in different jobs. So that may require reskilling. It may require a whole host of tools that we'll need to pivot folks into jobs that are available.
So you mentioned both unemployment insurance and the pandemic and unemployment assistance, and you said, well, maybe I'll explain that. Why don't you, let's start by allowing you to explain it, because I'm getting a lot of questions about the two. So give us some clarity on those two.
I'd be happy to. So, so the traditional unemployment is for folks that normally get paid with a W-2. They have an employer, and every, at the end of the year, you get your W-2, and you file your taxes with that W-2 form. The pandemic unemployment assistance is for folks that are and this, first of all, pandemic unemployment assistance is a brand new federal program. This is not a state program. The state, all the states in the country execute this program for the federal government. So it's federal dollars, not state dollars. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program is for a group of people that never, ever have been eligible for unemployment in the past because they don't pay into the unemployment insurance system, right? In the traditional unemployment system, it's an insurance, and employers pay every quarter so that their employees, if they become laid off, then there would be a safety net there for them. In the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, this is for folks that are self-employed. They're independent contractors, you file your taxes through 1099s. Sometimes we call them gig economy workers. All of those folks now are eligible for unemployment, and they have never been eligible for unemployment in the past. So that's the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And that program is going to run until the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, until December 27, 2020. Unless Congress does something different. And the payments for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance are retroactive to February 2nd, or whichever date you became unemployed due to a COVID-19 related reason, and it has to be related to COVID-19. So that's the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. And then on top of that, both in the traditional unemployment and in the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, the CARES Act had another part to it where anyone that is eligible for unemployment also receives an additional $600 per week on top of their eligible amount. And this additional $600 a week is that benefit lasts until the end of July, until July 27, 2020. So that is payable beginning March 29th to July 27, 2020. That's another part of the CARES Act.
Yeah, so your comments just evoked lots of folks to sort of reach out, particularly the 1099 employees or those who are sole proprietors, wanting to know what they need to do or what they need as a 1099 employee in order to apply and qualify for benefits. Followed by someone said to me, well, what do I need for that extra $600 that you just mentioned?
Okay, so, good questions. So if you fall into the category of not working because of a COVID-19 related reason, and you are an independent contractor, you may be eligible for PUA, as we call it. And you should go to mass.gov/P as in pandemic UA. We have all the information for eligibility on that website, as well as the application for that and all of the documents that you will need in order to apply for PUA. In order to be eligible for the $600, all you have to do is be eligible for unemployment. So there's nothing extra or additional you need to do to qualify for the $600. As long as you qualify for unemployment, whether traditional or pandemic, you automatically get the $600 a week until the end of July, or unless the government changes it, maybe longer.
So there's a group on asking, they're asking about strategies that you might give to people who claim that they're still having a difficult time getting through to the unemployment office.
Okay, so strategy. So for if they're having trouble, I hope they're not having trouble anymore during getting through our call center. We have ramped up our call center, our customer service agents from 50 agents in February to over 1,500 agents today in the span of 8 weeks. There are a couple of different ways to get a hold of us. One, we do have, if you don't want to call and wait, we do have a contact form online. If you go to mass.gov/unemployment/COVID-19, all of the info, there's a contact form on that site that you can fill out. Tell us what your issue is, and we will call you back. We've called back over 230,000 people with that contact form already. The other thing you can do is call us. We call our call center, which is 877-626-6800. And I'm hoping that Dr. Motley, that you can send out this information to your members after this call, so they don't have to be crazy writing this all down. And I'm happy to send all this information to you too. But all our information is in our mass.gov site. The other thing that we've been doing since March 22nd, and Hal is on the line too, Hal Bent, who's been the star of the show, but we have had virtual town halls every single day. So we've had about 63 plus town halls since March 22nd. We've only skipped Easter Sunday, that was it. But other than that, every single day. And and Hal is on there answering claimant calls live, solving issues every single day. They're usually around 2 or 2:30, depending on the day. And again, we've had more than 250,000 people join us on these calls. So we've done them in Spanish. We're doing them in Portuguese. I even tried my hand at Portuguese. I feel very bad for the Portuguese listeners that were listening that day. I'm fluent in Spanish, but definitely not in Portuguese.
Well, listen, we're so grateful to you for sharing that with us. You've moved from 50 to 1,500 in the call center. You're having virtual town halls. You've given us the numbers. The Urban League will, across Massachusetts, because we partner with our Urban League in Springfield, yes, with our leader there, Henry Thomas. And so we'll make sure that both the Urban League covers, the Commonwealth with you in that regard, and we'll send out those numbers. And so one of the questions that has come up probably about 10 times in the last couple minutes to me is, when I come back from this pandemic to work, and can I still receive benefits if my employer brings me back part-time or sort of furloughs me? So
if your employer is bringing you back part-time, then what you would do is you still can go into the unemployment system and certify, but you have to tell us that you're working and you have to give us your hours. And then that would create us to recalculate your monetary eligibility to make sure that you're still within the band of, there's a complicated equation that I'm sure Hal can tell you about, but that you still qualify. So if you're working less than 40 hours, you can still qualify for unemployment. We would just have to recalculate that and see what your eligibility amount would be.
So my company is reopening soon, and I don't feel safe returning because, as you know, we're going into phase 1, Madam Secretary. Can I continue to receive my benefits? Is another question they're asking.
So we do have emergency regulations right now for unemployment. And if someone is staying out of work due to a COVID-19 related reason, either you have compromised immunity or you live with folks that have compromised immunity, and there's a real fear that you might contract this virus, then you would continue to be eligible for unemployment.
That's good news to know, and we'll make sure that we get that out to everyone who's been writing about that as well.
And I just also want to again just stop and say that our website is pretty rich with information, and I'll give you one website that can take you everywhere that I spoke of even previously, which is the mass.gov/DUA, Department of Unemployment Assistance. So Department UA. mass.gov/DUA. We have a really rich supply there of resources of employer FAQs as well as employee FAQs. and we're updating that constantly. So there should be a lot of information there for your listeners in case there are questions they have that we don't answer today.
And we want to thank you for that, because we've been looking at it, and it's been incredible, and it's an incredible resource for us. So thank you for all the work that went into that. But there's a question that's near and dear to a lot of our hearts. We've had a child come home from college early due to this pandemic. Am I entitled to more benefits because that child is home?
It depends. Not necessarily. There's a dependency allowance that is limited, and I believe, Hal, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think is it $25 per dependent, but you have to be claiming that dependent on your tax return. Hal, is there anything you want to add to that? Because I want your voice in this too, not just mine.
Okay. Thank you, Secretary Acosta. So yes, as far as the dependency allowance, if your child is away at college, if you are the head of the household, if you're claiming the children anyways, you can already have been claiming that child as a dependent. So you should have been getting them when you first filed your claim, because if they're under the age of 24 and in school full-time, and you're the main support for that child, you can still claim that child as a dependent and receive that $25 allowance.
Thank you for that. And they followed it up really about work for teenagers coming home. My teenage child won't be able to work their usual job this summer, but they've had a job, that kept them on over the year and sort of laid them off now. Can they apply for unemployment?
If they are, go ahead, Hal. Go ahead. I see that you're.
That was too Hal. I'm sorry.
That's no problem.
I heard Hal's voice.
So yes, if the child regularly works over the summer and has established a benefit rate, they can claim for unemployment based on those previous wages. You also have to make sure, however, that the child is not being claimed as a dependent. That'll be flagged in the system, and then that would create an issue for you claiming the dependency allowance if your child is also on unemployment.
So, final question in this whole college area, because several people have written into me about that, is, given the current situation, to our secretary, are there any tips or advice you give to recent college graduates around how to gain paid professional employment? So
there are jobs out there, and obviously, as the economy starts reopening, there'll be jobs that are available. What I would suggest is that our teenagers check our mass.gov/masshire website, where we have many jobs posted. Obviously, there's jobs that are available today that, there's industries that are popping up that didn't exist before. So we do have jobs available, and I would suggest the Mass Hire website.
Thank you for that. So I've got a question here that says, and I know that you mentioned all of the languages, and also you even said that with Portuguese, you're sorry to that community for not being fluent in that, but we're so grateful that you even attempted to do that. So what resources are available to help individuals who are not so fluent in English, but qualify for unemployment? They just wanted me to have that emphasized again for them, so that folk who just joined us can hear it.
So yeah, so on our mass.gov site for unemployment, we have all our material translated into, I believe it's 15 different languages. And we also now have for our unemployment, our traditional UI online, we have a Spanish application. So there is a Spanish application now available. It's never been available before, and something that we've always wanted to do, but finally is available. So there's a Spanish application. This week, we're hoping to stand up a Portuguese, Vietnamese, Haitian, and there's one more. I think Chinese is the fourth language that we're hoping all to stand up by the end of this week. And that's on the traditional unemployment side. And on the pandemic unemployment side, we are actively working on getting a Spanish application up for the pandemic unemployment. And we're hoping that that's going to be ready in about a week or two. I don't have an exact timeline on that one.
But it's so good to hear that you're continuously thinking about ways to make sure that folk can navigate these systems and not have to be as worried typically as it is. It's bad enough trying to go in and figure things out, and then to have a tedious process hinder you from getting that. So thank you so much. I've gotten several of these. They want to know, is it true that the state's going to run out of funds for benefits because of high unemployment rate?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, the state cannot run out of benefits. We have obviously this is a federal program, and we watch our trust fund very, very carefully. So if we were to, and we will be asking for money from the federal government. So once our trust fund gets to a level that we're not comfortable with, we already are online with our federal partners to make sure that we replenish our trust fund, and that would be a loan from the federal government to us, to the state of Massachusetts, that we eventually do have to repay. Fortunately, it's interest-free until the end of December, but all states are in the same position, and frankly, states are asking at this point for some help on that, and transferring that to grants versus loans. So we'll see what happens in Congress, but we won't be running out of trust fund money.
Now that is serious good news to hear. But now they're saying, what about my taxes though? Are my benefit payments taxed higher than my wages were?
Are your benefit payments?
They want to know if their benefit payments are taxed higher than their actual old wages were at their jobs. Is there some difference between that and what? So I go on unemployment, and my tax higher because I'm on unemployment getting $1 versus when I worked and I earned $1. Is there a difference in that tax structure?
No, it's just, it would be in your tax bracket. So whatever your tax bracket is, that's what you would be taxed on. I'm not a tax accountant, so probably a better question for a tax accountant. But your benefits are taxable. So both your traditional UI benefits as well as the pandemic unemployment assistance are taxed. They are taxed. So, but let me just make a statement here, because there is a difference in how we're doing it. Because we stood up the pandemic unemployment assistance so quickly, we are not deducting taxes from that program. So if you are on the PUA system, please make sure that you're putting some money aside for taxes, because at the end of the year, we're going to send you a form and say you need to file your taxes and you need to claim this money. So we have not been taking out the taxes on the PUA side, but you do have the option to take out taxes on the traditional unemployment side.
So they just sent me a note saying Secretary Acosta just saved you again, Dr. Motley, because she answered the question you should have asked her, which was the question you just answered. That's what they wanted to know about.
Okay.
So thank you so much for answering that question. So, but now I'm getting this, what are the chances we're going to receive another stimulus check, even though the state is slowly reopening? I don't know whether to cheer, be happy, or be sad.
I know.
That's the question.
Yeah, let me look into my crystal ball. I don't know. I don't know what Congress is up to. We do know that the House did pass an additional stimulus bill. It doesn't appear that the Senate is eager to take that up. I think there are probably folks on listening to this call today that are better at guessing what Congress does than I do, but not sure if we'll have another stimulus package or not. We'll have to wait and see on that.
You may have answered this, but there is a question about if someone has had their hours reduced 20% and they're applying for unemployment insurance in Massachusetts, can they do that?
They can, but Hal, I'm going to have you give a better answer than I did because I always get really confused on this formula. So, so maybe you can chime in on exactly how we look at reduced hours and eligibility. Hal,
Sorry,
did you hear the question?
I did hear the question, yes. So one of my favorite things to talk about on the virtual town halls is the partial unemployment. Yes, if your hours have been reduced, you may be eligible for partial benefits. Now, what we have to take into consideration is when we're determining your benefit rate for unemployment, unemployment pays 1/2 your average weekly wage. And then with that benefit rate established as 1/2 of your average weekly wage from all of your wages of the previous year is what's used in that calculation. So if you are earning less money and you had earned more money previously, that 20% reduction may make you eligible for that partial benefits. If you're earning more than you had been in the past, it may be the opposite. You may still earn, because what we factor is not just partial earnings on your benefit rate, but we have what's called an earnings disregard. So the first 1/3 of your benefits, that doesn't affect you on your earnings. So for example, if your benefit rate is $300, the 1/3 or the earnings up to $100 in partial earnings has no effect on you. So if you earn $99, you'd still receive your full $300 benefit rate. It's only when you go over that amount that we deduct dollar for dollar. So if you earned $200 that week, you would have 100 over your earnings exclusion, so we'd subtract 100 and you'd receive $200 for that week. And you can earn up to that benefit rate plus that 1/3 earnings exclusion. So if your earnings were $400 for the week with that $300 benefit rate, once you got to $400 for the week, you're over your benefit rate, so you're not eligible for that, for any benefit. But if you had earned $399, you have that $1, you're eligible for that $1 in partial benefits, and you're also eligible for that pandemic additional compensation of the $600 per week. So what I always tell people is if your hours are reduced, your best bet is to apply for the unemployment benefits, get the monetary determination that'll give you that calculation, and then you can figure out based on your earnings that you're getting from your employer and partial benefits if you're eligible or not at that point.
So they're writing me asking you, Hal, is there a way to easily follow up on your claim?
Yes. So the best way to follow up on your claim is to log into UI Online. The UI Online system is built for the claimants to be able to go in and self-service, be able to go in and access a lot of their own claim information. We have a landing page when they log into UI Online that gives a great overview of your claims. There's a benefit overview section right there. When do I need to request benefits? Is there something pending that you need to request? All of your payment information and important announcements are right on that landing page. And then we also have, they'll see over on the side, the view and maintain account information. This is where if you need to update your contact information, if you forgot to add dependent children to the claim when you filed, you can still add them in there. Any non-monetary issues or monetary issues on your claim, there's an issue summary section. You can log in and see that information there. Your weeks claimed, all that information's there. You can see if your payments are pending, payment history, payment method options is one that we talk about a lot as well. If you've got direct deposit set up, if that's been approved yet, or if we're just waiting for your bank to authenticate. So a lot of great information that you can access right there in the UI online system, just signing in over the computer.
So they got any, go ahead.
I said, this is why I bring Hal.
One more for Hal.
I could not have done what he just did.
One more for Hal. Hal, they want to know, you know, we've heard about the time that it was taking initially for people to get through the process. So is there a time now that you are saying is the time that it takes? And when should people begin to panic if they haven't heard from us?
So if you haven't heard from us, a lot of times there's no reason to panic. So we usually, our general timeline has always been, takes approximately 2 to 3 weeks to process an unemployment claim. Obviously, because of the COVID-19 situation, and we have the all hands on deck here at unemployment, not just with all our unemployment staff, but our sister agencies have been helping out, staff from Secretary Acosta's office. It's literally all hands on deck. So we're trying to get things processed as soon as possible. So we recommend your best bet is follow along with that information if you can online. You're going to see the status. You're going to see if there's any information requests that we have in your system. But for the most part, you know, our staff has been doing an amazing job of, you know, a high percentage of the claimants are receiving benefits in less than the 2 or 3 week time frame as well. We're seeing, you know, a lot of the claims we're able to get that information that's necessary to make the payments, and it's a lot of times we're just waiting for we see in the town halls all the time, you know, the payment method office. We're just waiting for the direct deposit to become active or for the debit card to come in the mail, and those payments are right there waiting for it, ready to go. So 2 to 3 weeks is what the official word is, but if you haven't received anything after that time, please do either fill out a contact form online or reach out to us at the 877-626-6800, and one of our superstars in claims will be glad to assist in identifying what needs to be done to get this taken care of.
So you heard it from Hal. 2 to 3 weeks. If you haven't heard, then reach out and try to get some help. And we have a number that we're going to give over and over again. What's that number again, Hal?
877-626-6800.
877-626-6800. That's the number to call. And so,
I'm sorry, Dr. Motley, if I can add one thing. The only thing I would add too is that we are calling people 7 days a week until 8 p.m. Every single day. So as Hal said, we're not taking any days off until all the claims are filed and all the calls are answered. And we do have a large amount of folks that don't pick up the call when we call. So if you see that number coming through that Hal just gave you and Dr. Motley just gave you, please pick up the line. It's us trying to reach you and answer your questions. And if it's 8 p.m. and that phone rings, it's still us trying to. And if it's Sunday and it's 7:30 p.m., that's us trying to get a hold of you. So we're not taking any days off. We're doing this 7 days a week.
that is so incredible. Thank you for all of that hard work and just reaching out to the community in ways that you're doing. And so the next question, they're like, to the secretary, Dr. Motley, you already indicated how great you believe our secretary is, and she's demonstrating that today by being here, but also answering these questions for us. But we also know that you indicated she was forward thinking, and it's more than just about now. So what percentage of the PUA funds have been earmarked for training of displaced workers, or are there any funds or any kind of plan for going forward with displaced workers and their training? noting that people want to have the opportunity and they also want to learn so that they can be equipped to be in transition into some of the innovations that are happening around the Commonwealth.
So thank you for that question. Let me be very clear. Remember that the money that we get for PUA, just want to start with that, it's federal money. And that federal money comes with very, very detailed strings and how we can spend that money. So it is strictly for unemployment benefits, that particularly that PUA money. Sorry, my dog is barking. Sorry about that. But there are funds, national grant dollars some that we've received and some that we continue to apply for to make sure that we are training, especially when it comes to this, in this pandemic situation that we're finding ourselves. Making sure that we have to pivot, and there are some things that we have to do now that we have to do differently. One of the things that we also did was with our workforce training fund money, we allocated money from the workforce training fund to manufacturers that were making PPE. And these were manufacturers that could have been in a completely different line of business previously. But now we're making PPE and needed money to do so. So we had workforce training fund money that now we've geared towards that. So, we have to think about ways to be creative because it is a new economy that we're in. We have to be very fluid. There's some money that we can control on the state side. What's on the federal side, we have a little less control of, but we're very creative in how we use funds and how we help train folks.
So the question that's come up now, and I know you talked about medical illnesses that classify you as immune compromised. They want to know, can you leave from your job and be eligible for unemployment if you believe you're having and have been documented to have a serious medical illness?
Yes. So under the circumstances today, and under the emergency regulations that we filed, if it is a COVID-related reason that you are separating from your employer, you are eligible for unemployment.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so I want to ask a selfish question. So as the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, and also the Urban League across the Commonwealth, what are some of the ways that we can partner to help you during this period to get the word out to the communities about what you're trying to do in workforce development and labor?
There's going to be a lot of work that we all have to do, and we are going to have to all strongly partner with our community-based organizations, with education, with our economic development folks, because the task that we're going to have ahead of us is going to be a heavy lift. I'm very encouraged by conversations I'm having with community colleges. This is a time, there's 15 community colleges throughout the state. What can we do with our community colleges to leverage best practices? So if you have a curriculum that's already developed in Western Mass or Central Mass, can we use that throughout the Commonwealth? So all of these conversations are happening now. Urban League has always been a partner with us. We did a great apprenticeship program with you through Apprenti. I think that's one example of, how do we make sure that the training programs that we have are reaching all of our communities, and certainly the talent that you already have in-house. We can certainly use that talent in collaboration with other nonprofits as we start looking at what are the industries that we really need to stand up over the next few months and year or two ahead. I think we're in this for a while. This is not going to be an overnight thing. I'm an optimist at heart, but I think we're going to be in this situation for well beyond this calendar year. And I think we've all gotten better at what we're doing today. I mean, never would we have had a video call like this, you know, and set that up as a meeting. I would have been showing up at the Urban League, you know, and standing up in front of you, and we would be having this conversation. We have done the same thing with our mass hire centers. So our career centers, we have 29 career centers throughout Massachusetts, and we were pretty much 100% in-person delivery of services. Now we're 100% remote. So whether it's resume writing, whether it's interview skills, we're having virtual job fairs. We are having interviews remotely. So we have employers that say to us, hey, I'm hiring 10, 15, 20 people. Can you help us screen? So we're screening a whole bunch of applicants now, just like this, just like what we're doing right now. And interestingly enough, what we're seeing is that people are showing up more readily to the computer interview than they would you know, going to a mass hire center. And it makes sense because transportation has always been a huge issue for us in everything, in all our job interviews, and transportation now has become less of an issue because people are working remotely. And if you think about what we even did in our customer service center, where we went from 50 customer service folks that were working on premise, chained to their desk, we had no technology to get them outside of that environment, to all of a sudden in 8 weeks, everybody is working remotely. We have remote call centers, remote customer service, remote everything. So there's some real best practices that have come out of this crisis that we will be carrying forward into whatever that new normal is. And I don't know what that means, but we'll soon figure that out.
And so another question that is becoming a burning question on the question and answer center right now is, when are we going to implement an extension for the regular people who were already looking for work, then just got completely double-sided hit by COVID-19? So you're wondering if there's going to be any kind of implementation of an extension for them that were already being in that process.
So so the good news is that within that CARES Act, the third part of the CARES Act, so you have the $600, you have the pandemic unemployment. The third part of that CARES Act is called the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, or PEUC. Excuse me, and that benefit provides an extension of 13 weeks to unemployment benefits. So PUA is a 39-week program. Okay, and PEUC extends that benefit. Under traditional unemployment, it's a 13-week extension. So there is an extension of benefits that folks can apply to. If they have exhausted their benefits, they can apply for an additional 13 weeks.
So another question that I'm getting is about strategy regarding some of the wealth in unemployment that's been, the wealth development opportunities that have pre-existing this COVID were in the communities of color that now have been going through lots of challenges, like the restaurants and other small businesses that have had challenges during this time. There was a process that was sort of delayed in getting to some of those businesses by the federal government. However, since we have you today, they want me to talk with you about, and I'd like to talk with you about any strategies for sort of working through that so that we don't lose this high percentage of individuals and or companies and businesses and others that have been trying to work in our community for years to sort of build their businesses and those kinds of things. We don't want them to go by the wayside as a result of this pandemic.
So anyone that hasn't applied for, I can't remember now what the initials stand for, but the PPP loan program, which is a small business program, there's money right now. So I know it was a little bit of a fiasco when it first came out from the Small Business Administration, the first phase of it. The money went very, very quickly, and unfortunately, the money went to very large businesses. The second phase, there was more money allocated by Congress for more PPP loans, and there are still money available. And what I'm hearing from the Small Business Administration is that the average loan size right now is about $70,000. Which tells me that our smaller businesses are beginning to apply. So I would encourage anyone that has not applied for the Small Business Administration loan called PPP to please apply. That's number one. Number two is if you have employees that you can't pay right now, but you really don't want to lose them and you don't want them to go someplace else. Maybe you can still employ them for several hours a week, but not full time. There is a great program that I want you to look at called WorkShare. And you, again, mass.gov/WorkShare. We try to make it simple. And under the WorkShare program, the way that works is you pay your employee for a portion of the salary. It could be you can have a 20% reduction or a 30% reduction, whatever that reduction is, whatever the business can afford. And then unemployment benefits pays the remainder. So as long as you're a WorkShare employer, you can keep that talent sort of on hold, right? You're still having them a little bit in your business, but we know how difficult it is to find folks that you've already trained, and that's costly, et cetera. So in order to keep them sort of on hold, you can apply for the WorkShare program and not lose that. So when you do reopen, you don't have to lose a step in your business productivity.
So, Dr. Motley, why haven't you asked her any question that had the word veteran in it? Are there any benefits for veterans that are coming from, that are in this situation, Madam Secretary?
So all of our mass hire centers, every single one of them have veteran representatives, and there is money from, again, it's mostly federal money for veteran training and veteran programming. So if we have veterans listening to us today, please contact your local mass hire center to get the array of federal programs that are executed through our mass hire career centers.
Thank you so much for that, because so many of my colleagues and friends and students and former students who happen to be veterans are online or watching this now, and they were disturbed we hadn't mentioned anything about them. And I want to be clear, it's not because of anything other than we hadn't gotten there yet. Here we are.
Right, it's an hour long, right?
So what I want to do, because I know we're entering on our closing time, and for the first time in my life, I want to actually do something on time, because it will have been because of the way things limit us. And in fact, that's what all this remote conversations have done. They've limited our time. They kept us focused and all of that. So I want to start with Hal to see if he has any kind of closing thoughts that he'd like to leave with the audience that we have today. Then I'm going to come to you, Secretary Acosta, and then I'll close out with just some things around the Urban League.
Okay, thank you so much. First, Dr. Motley, just for inviting us on here. I appreciate that immensely, the opportunity. I love being able to reach out and interact and talk with our constituents here. If there's anything that I leave as this is, we get a lot of questions. I'm not sure if I'm eligible for unemployment benefits. I'm working part-time. My hours have been reduced. If there's one thing I can always say and emphasize is the best way to find out if you're eligible for unemployment benefits is to apply for the unemployment benefits. So log in on the website, apply, or call into us on the 877-626-6800 number and file that application. We'll let you know on that eligibility. And then one other thing I have to throw in, because I do this all the time on the town hall meetings. After you filed your unemployment claim, whether it's regular unemployment benefits, whether it's PUA, the pandemic unemployment assistance, remember you need to certify for benefits over the web for PUA, or over the web or over the phone, either option. For regular unemployment benefits, certifying for benefits is how you let us know that you are unemployed for that week and want to receive payment. So after you file the claim, don't just sit back and wait. Make sure that every week you're logging or calling in and requesting the benefits for any week that you're unemployed or underemployed.
Thank you, Hal. Secretary Acosta.
And I'll add one thing that to what Hal said, and then I'll close. The other place that we see a lot of mistakes on the unemployment claims are employers. We have a lot of folks that write down the wrong employer name, and if you put down the wrong employer name, you're going to have a problem with your application. So please look at your W-2s and put the exact name, because if you work for a franchise, the name on the door may be different than the actual name of the employer. So please look at that. So I'll just close with thanking Dr. Motley, William Watkins, all of you listening from the Urban League. I'm really, I know that this is a tough time for all of us, and we're all working very hard to make sure that we get things right. We're not perfect by any means, and we're trying really hard to make sure that we process every claim as quickly as we possibly can, because we know how important it is to everyone to get those very needed funds. I know that we will now be pivoting to the reemployment side as the economy starts opening. I think we all need to work very closely together to figure out how we are going to train people, how we're going to get people back to work safely. That's really ultimately our goal in everywhere, both everyone listening here and the policymakers. We want to make sure that we're driven by the science and not so much the date. We are very anxious to all get back to work and see our friends. And for extroverts like me, this is a really hard time because I have to hug people by video, which is really not the same as being in person. But I'm optimistic that we'll get there. We just have to be very patient. And this is a moment in time that we're all living through that, I think we're all going to remember, and we're all going to look back and say, where was I when all of this was happening? But more importantly, what did I do to help our communities, and what did I do that was significant and impactful during this pandemic to make sure that we kept people safe and we gave people what they needed. So with that, thank you again for inviting me. It's been my honor and pleasure to be here, and I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Motley.
Well, I want to thank you, Secretary Acosta. First of all, we are so proud to be a partner with you, and I am personally so proud to just watch you just continue to do the incredible work you've been doing all of your adult life and beyond. So thank you for taking the time out during this period to be with us today and spending this time unpacking some of the issues for those who were concerned about their benefits, but also just the kinds of things we should be thinking about as a community as we think about going back in a reemployment strategy. I also want to thank our audience for tuning in today. And I want you to look out for our next Leader Over Lunch program. Now, it's going to take a lot to improve on this one, but we'll have one. We're going to announce it. We want you to also to become a member of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. And we want you to do that because this is Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts month. May is that month. It's that month because May 16th represented our 101st birthday. And so we've been doing this for a lot of years. Our youth programs, our young professional programs, our Urban League Guild, all those things are to be celebrated. And you as a community are to be celebrated for embracing us during this time. I also want you to know that May 28th is our first virtual gala for the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. We're very grateful to be sponsored by TJX Companies, but also hosted and sponsored by the Red Sox. And so that's at 8:00 a.m. We'll be sending out the virtual link to all of you to invite you to come take a look at all those we're honoring. So visit our website, www.ulem.org, for more details. And so until we get a chance to have lunch with you again, enjoy life, stay strong, stay healthy, stay focused. Thank you for joining us.